Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, YouTubers. This is Jerry Diamond with How to Get Out of Babylon and Flat Earth Homeland. Finishing up, hopefully in one more video, my notes from the video by Fletch, OzArk Tactical Homestead, regarding OzArk, REFUGIUM, or Pacific Northwest REDOUBT states. All right, so that's where we're going here. I'm going to pick up where I left off. I've been doing this for a lot of years. I'm going to be, one way or another, figuring out how I can get some help, because financially and just physically, I am needing a change. Been dealing with this for 17 years all by myself, and I just need to get something going on. So I'd appreciate your thoughts, prayers, ideas, whatever. So there we are. Okay, so here's where we were, and the issue is diversity, population demographics, and the types of people you might run into in the said two regions that you might personally not want to run into. I guess that's how we could put it, euphemistically. Okay, so that being said, you could say this in a sense. You could say this is a tit for tat, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Flip a coin, take your choice. But I have the sense that given the overall types and caliber of mentality, worldview, the German word Weltanschauung, the worldview of a lot of people moving to the different regions, many people moving to the Ozarks are believers, as are there's believers going to the Pacific Northwest. Of course, you got, I would say, normal church people, a lot of them. I mean, you have Chuck Baldwin's group. So you may have a high content religious, but what does that mean? Well, it just means a lot of people in the United States are quote unquote religious. I don't know about those who would consider themselves New Testament believers or versus Messianic, Torah keepers, feast keepers. I do know as far as the Pacific Northwest, I do know for a fact that I, just at a guesstimate, there's probably a 2,000. I mean, when you have the number of people that observe feast days, biblical feast days on their own property, and have the facilities to do so. One family has two dormitories, barracks, whatever you want to call them, with two pairs of washers and dryers in each building, so they can break them up by families or single or, whatever. Anyway, that's just a family. So I would guess there's probably a couple thousand places you could observe feast days over the Ozarks. Some huge with anywhere from 1 to 5,000 people gathering. Arnold Murray comes to mind. Is that right? I think that's right. Anyway, Branson area, there's some huge gatherings. Up at Lake of the Ozarks, there's some huge gatherings. I went up there one year. My son and daughter and I went up there one year, and it was the coldest tabernacle we'd ever experienced. And they had that place rented for over 2 weeks, because of the vast number of differences of approaches to the calendar and, when is tabernacles. So, anyway. All right, that being said, I'm going to get right into this. So, I read this one about author Harold Covington. This is where the name Northwest Front came from. Mentioned in a manifesto, Charleston Killer, whoever that was, I don't really know or care. The recent high-profile reference to the NWF has once again drawn attention to the white separatist author and his online organization. Photos of him standing in front of his flag are recirculating and reviving the question of whether or not Covington stole the idea for his tricolor from the Doug fur flag, which was created in 1995 by Alexander Baratek. Who cares? There's about 50 flags around the world that have the same exact 3 colors, and they're not, like who stole it first? All right, 3 colors. Whoop. Red, green, and yellow. The book Distant Thunder mentioned, written in the tradition of NRA fan fiction like the Turner Diaries, set here in the Pacific Northwest of Distant Thunder, is the first novel in a series about a bunch of angry, broke white guys who overthrow the United States. Yeah, as, is it Aerosmith or one of the two, Dream On, Dream On. All right, so that's a picture of the book. That's the only reason I have that there. Okay, the flag popped up again in 2005. Guess where? On the cover of the second novel in the series, A Mighty Fortress. And then in 2008 on the cover of The Brigade. Okay, website went up live. It's been up ever since, so there's a website up there. Okay, now we're transistoring, changing over to the Ozarks here. Pretty rough in the Ozarks. There's a movie called Winter's Bone, where, yeah, right, J-Law, Jennifer Lawrence first got her real big approach to, or big screenplay, and then of course became the heroine of Mockingjay and Catching Fire and Mockingjay and Hunger Games. Okay. So let's go to Arkansas, Harrison, Arkansas. Now this is not throughout the Ozarks. This is, I think, primarily in and around Harrison. But there is right up here in the top right there, Jeff Crockett, the most racist mayor in America. Whatever. Proud and White is the YouTube channel. Jeff Crockett thanks Thomas A. Robb for keeping minorities out of Harrison, Arkansas. Okay, and they have a billboard there. They have a tradition of having billboards there. It's not racist to love your people. www.whiteprideradio.com. And you can see some of the, sidebars there. I'm not going to go into this much. Just to say that, like I said, it's going to rain everywhere. It can flood anywhere. California goes from drought to flood. Tornadoes occur, like I said already, over most of the Craton. They're totally unpredictable. If you want to go where there's no tornadoes, go live on the coast. If you want to go where there's no hurricanes, go live in the interior of the United States. I mean, it happens, as Forrest Gump said. So that's, I guess that's probably an older billboard there. And I'm not even going to comment on the whole racist issue because it's okay. Well, it's just, racial crimes are being reported if they're, of a certain race. Otherwise, you're okay. So, okay. So anyway, that's I'm going to finish on that. I'm kind of tired of it. Now the next, I got to back out here because this I'm not even going to get into. I've covered it to some degree. I'll cover it again. So the next thing here is food and the question of, I want to bring it up again because when I'm dealing with food or anything like that, where you're going to live, where you're going to decide to live, I want to reemphasize, this is a difficult concept to understand. It is. It's a difficult concept to look at with good examples, I'll put it that way. Ceteris paribus, or Cateris paribus, technically. I took Latin for 4 years. I know how to pronounce these things, but it looks like Ceteris paribus in English, so we'll say Ceteris paribus. That's what Michael Bunker used it, called it. Actually, in Latin, a C is a hard K. A C is a hard C. See, there's a K. Cateris paribus. With other conditions remaining the same. Here's an example. A shorter hours of labor will Ceteris paribus, reduce the volume of output. Okay, cut your hours, you cut your output. Latin phrase meaning all other things equal, other things being held constant, all else unchanged, etc., etc., etc. I'm not going to go into that anymore because when you get into whether it be logic or finances, people use it a lot, and I didn't feel that a lot of them were really applicable. Here's an example by author Michael Bunker. This is now, I took 4 years of Latin, and I might have run across this before, but in relation to our day, our times, what we're faced with right now, Michael Bunker was the first one that I heard it used by. In the final days of the Roman Empire, there were plenty of people still arguing, and from real evidence, I might add that the Roman Empire was still in power. The problem is that the conclusions they were drawing from the evidence was incorrect. Other things are going to continue as they always have. You can see that in Scripture, basically. Things are going to continue as they have since the fathers fell asleep, Peter says, in the Peter's epistles. The Ceteris paribus fallacy had most people convinced that because the Roman Empire still ruled, then it would continue to do so for the foreseeable future, even though the empire's days were numbered. Okay, now Bunker goes and uses this in relation to Kindle and making money. Surviving Off-Grid, book by Michael Bunker. Western society is in confusion. The industrial world is teetering in collapse, and it looks like things could get worse. Agrarian, blogger, historian, and plain preacher, Amish type, Michael Bunker has been living off of the grid for many years, and he has some advice for those living in the industrial consumerist economy, living as off-grid, and off-grid is achievable. Okay. Beyond Off-Grid, the website here, .com. This is the documentary that I was in. When you see the trailer, it's about 1 minute and 11 seconds, 1 minute 13 seconds, something like that. I was the second person in the trailer because I answered a question that they threw at me out of the blue, and the answer came from 40 years, prior reading of, how is Rome and America alike? And I said, well, pusillanimous indolence, that's how they're alike. Edward Gibbon wrote a 7-volume series, The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, and he said that Rome fell because of pusillanimous indolence of the general population. In other words, they were lazy and they were cowardly. And that's a good description of America today. Well, the project Beyond Off-Grid, which ended up being a couple $100,000 project, was basically motivated and brainstormed, I guess, from the writings of Michael Bunker, especially this book, Beyond Surviving Off-Grid. Okay, so he's a Christian agrarian off-gridder, husband, father of 4 children, blogger, best-selling author, lives with his family in a plain community in Central Texas where he manages his farm and writes books. Now, here's my issue. He's visionary. I mean, he's got science fiction books about, the Silo Archipelago, Glass Pilgrims, Amish Sci-Fi, Pennsylvania. I read that. He's got a lot of visionary stuff, and he says that we must discipline, we must force ourselves to think differently. We need to change our way of thinking. I agree with him. Unfortunately, my message for that documentary and for that project, and it did not get in there at all, other than at the tail end, in the credits, the producer and director, Sean Town, thanks me for making my work and my vision available to everyone free for all these years. Well, my point is that these off-gridders across the country who are doing wonderful are assuming that ceteris paribus, everything's going to remain as it is, and they're going to be okie dokie to stay in their little cubbyhole of a farm, and that's not going to happen. So Michael Bunker is making the mistake that he preaches on so much, ceteris paribus. All things are going to remain equal. Now, maybe he has a backup plan, maybe, but I have never heard of, and I did expos with him, did a lot of things with him back there in 99, Y2K. I think he's planning on staying there in Texas. I don't know. If not, Cateris paribus. This is Jerry Diamond. If you're listening to this, you are the remnant. I'm going to shut it off and start another one.